Hi, my name is Brian Spector, and I'm an interior and landscape architect. And I've been practicing interior design for the past 8 years. And today we're answering the internet most searched interior design questions. The internet's most, the most Googled questions on the about interior design. Yeah, let's get into it. Question number one. What is interior design all about? What is interior design all about? Interior design is an art, more like a science really, of enhancing the inside of a building to increase the functionality, makes the space make the space feel more safe, but above everything else, improve the aesthetics of the space. Now, all this is done putting in mind what are the core needs of the building occupants. And in the process of enhancing these spaces, we get into various aspects like planning, selecting materials, color, textures, furnishing spaces, and it goes on and on. One of the key things to take away here is that the way you design a home is not the same way you design an office or a hospital or a lounge. There's like a science, it's like a sense of art that is attached to each particular space that you're designing. And so for a home, you want to turn that cold, empty shell of a structure into a warm, cozy environment. And if you have a family, a space where your children can safely grow up. Whereas for an office, we're going for a more vibrant and energetic space. The kind of space that you want to come to every Monday morning. Okay, question number two. Is interior design architecture? This is actually funny. No, interior design is not architecture. Now, I completely understand why this is an area of concern, but whereas both are related and focus on designing interior spaces, architecture focuses on the structure integrity and overall construction of a building, whereas interior design emphasizes the aesthetics, finishes, and furnishings, the decorative elements of a space to create that feel and functionality. Okay, how do I break this down? Architecture focuses on the big picture, the structure, the flow of the building, whereas interior design is more about the tiny habits, the day-to-day activities within the space and the needs of the occupants and the tiny nitty-gritty. Question number three, what is interior design architecture? Okay, let me see how to break this down. Interior design architecture is sort of a blend between interior design and architecture that focuses on the redesign and structure integrity and material construction of like existing interior design spaces. Does that make sense? I should emphasize that there is often focus on adaptive reuse of materials or the spaces that are being worked on. So the takeaway here being that now we're more focused on the structure design rather than just utilizing and designing the interior. Now there is an element of architecture added to the interior design. Does that make sense? I hope it does. By now, you should have noticed that all these three terms, architecture, interior design, architecture, are sort of interlinked. They are similar in more ways than one. And the best way to get to understand what each of them is to interact more and more with the terms, make your own personal research so that the more you interact with them, the more it becomes more obvious to you, I guess. Our next question is, what is the cost of interior design? So to answer this, there are a few things we need to consider. Are you paying the designer or are you paying for the designs? Two different things. Say for starters, we consider the interior designer. Some interior designers charge per hour and they will charge maybe $50 to $500 per hour. And then other interior designers will charge per project. And so they will charge you, I don't know, depending on how small or big the project is. And this really, really varies on what kind of designer you are working with. Some designers are high end and some designers are just really starting out, and so they're trying to get projects and stuff like that, and so it's much more easier to get them onto your project. Whereas if the designer is already established, then it may be a little bit harder to get them to work with you. But I guess all that comes down to how much money you have and influence and stuff like that. I don't know. The other thing you could consider is the interior designs. In other words, the artifacts, the materials, the finishes, the furnishes. So with that, again, I feel like it's the same case. It really depends on your project, what you're trying to achieve, because the interior design could be me walking down to a plant shop and buying a plant at maybe $10, but it could also be me buying a couch that costs $10,000 or $50,000. So it really depends on what you're working on, what your tastes and preferences are. So the scope is really crazy. But yeah, that's those are a few things that would you would have to consider. And our next question is interior design a good career? Yes, interior design is indeed a good career, but I guess this all comes back down to the type of person you are. If you're the type of person that is into art, if you're into spaces, if you're into problem solving and you're very communicative, then yes, interior design is a good career path for you. Because you know what? The interior design industry is growing, and a big contributor to this is the internet. And people are always watching online, researching on Instagram, researching on all these social media platforms, and figuring out what other people are doing with their homes. And so they want to replicate that in their homes. And so there's never been a higher need for interior designers in the entire world than there is today. And this is part of the internetification of things. And it doesn't just apply to interior design, but so many services and career paths out there. However, I should emphasize that interior design is not just about roses and flowers, live happy ever after. It is a demanding field because just like most career paths, it does require technical skills, significant client interaction skills. It requires project management skills and managing client expectations. And some projects go on forever. They have really long timelines, and some projects have really short timelines, and you can barely hit the deadline. So it gets crazy and technical, just like any other service. Things do get crazy sometimes. Our next question is interior design better than architecture? Okay, so like I mentioned before, architecture, interior design, very similar, but very different at the same time. So at the end of the day, it comes back down to what type of person you are. What are your likes? What are your dislikes? What are you into? Figure out whether this works for you. Which of the two works for you? Are you going to be an architect or is you going to be an interior designer? I would say if you're into the structure, integrity, the mathematics of buildings and spaces, take architecture. If you're into art, aesthetics, functionality, and the beauty of spaces, color, lights, stuff like that, then go interior design. Okay, our next question is how much is interior design school? Well, I don't know. Obviously, it heavily depends on your different regions and where you stay and where you come from and where you're considering to study. But I will tell you about my place, which is Uganda, Kampala. I went to Chambogo University, and most institutes and universities that are offering this in Uganda will range usually from 400 US dollars to maybe 1,500, depending on whether it's a government university or a private institute. And that converted to Ugandan shillings can be somewhere between 1.5 million, 1.5 million Ugandan shillings to maybe 6 million Ugandan shillings. So depending really. But on the other hand, I should also mention that there are some online courses that you can take to get you started if you are not yet at university level, or if you want to skip university level. Honestly, I'm not a huge advocate of people taking the university part, and that's a conversation for another day. But anyway, if you're considering some online courses, you can get, I think, an interior design course ranging from $10 all the way to $1,000 as well. So it really depends on where you're looking and what your interests are, and whether you're looking to do physical course, online, and stuff like that. So yeah. I hope that helps for anyone trying to get into the interior design field. Our next question is, what are interior design styles? This is an interesting topic because, to simply put it, interior design styles are like languages. The various combinations of color, materials, and finishes and deco elements, and how you bring them together to communicate functionality or aesthetics within a space. Simply put it. I hope it makes sense. So we have the popular design styles like minimalism, Scandinavian, Japandi, the modern interior design, mid-century modern interior design, and so many on. But to simply put it, these are just languages for expressing the different deco elements. In other words, they are sort of a starting point, a guideline for what to put together in order for the different design elements to make sense. I hope that makes sense. That makes sense, right? And so when you're working on your space, maybe your office or your home, you have to sit down and think, do you want it to be a modern space? Do you want it to be minimalistic, clean, earthy? What kind of feeling are you trying to evoke from this space? You know, when you sit in this space, what do you want it to say? And so those are interior design styles and languages that you can use to express, the different design elements and stuff like that. Anyway, that, ladies and gentlemen, is everything I wanted to share with you guys in today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it inspires you to contract an interior designer or become an interior designer. That said, catch you guys in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, share with a friend, and see you in the next episode.